Join me today as we talk about condos here in Florida. Hi, I'm Cheryl, and welcome to Sold by Cheryl, and let's get right to it. So first and foremost, I just want to assure you, I do not want to scare you from buying a condo. There's just a lot that's happened, and I just want you to make a smart decision and kind of know about a few of these things before you go into it. So everything changed when the absolute tragedy of the Surfside condo collapsed back in 2021. 98 people died, several injured, and the one thing everybody can agree on is this absolutely cannot happen again. So what legislature did is they said, okay, we want everything to be structurally sound. So they did these structural integrity rules that the condos had to go by, and they had to make those changes really, really quick. So what happened was a lot of these buildings basically had to rebuild themselves, which means that the condo owners, they got hit with really big assessments, and I'm talking 20,000 and more, especially in those high-rise buildings. And not only did they get hit with those assessments, but the HOAs, they depleted their emergency reserves, their disaster funds. So then what happened is that when they tried to sell their condos, the condos were no longer warrantable. In other words, no mortgage company would put a mortgage on that condo because the HOA disaster fund was depleted. So the bank, if the condo burnt down or anything like that, then the mortgage company wouldn't get their money back. So they said, no, we're not going to put a mortgage on that. And at that point, a lot of those condos became cash only, which then really shrunk the pool of buyers down, and it decreased the value of the condos. So they kind of got hit with this just from all sides, the assessments, and then of course the rising insurance premiums. Now their condos lost value. So it was a really big problem. I personally got affected by it because I was helping a family member look for a condo, and we ran into some of these challenges where a lot of these condos weren't warrantable. So even though the buyer is qualified, the building wasn't. So that really shrunk our choices down as to what could be purchased. The other problem that I ran into is that I was selling a condo, and the building, the people were able to get mortgages on it before. So we weren't really too worried about it. When we got under contract, then the HOA disclosed that they had just changed the insurance policy so that it was a cash only. So in other words, if the building burnt down and it would cost $2 million to rebuild, they were only insuring it for $1 million. At that point, once again, the mortgage company was like, well, we can't put a mortgage on that. And, we lost the deal because you couldn't get financing. And then at that point, she ended up losing a lot of money because our pool of buyers shrunk down so bad. So after going through this personally and knowing that, it's not just these isolated incidences that happen, that this is happening on mostly the coastal areas, and, Orlando, those kind of places have more of those buildings. I kind of made it something that was just really, really important to me to try to fix. So I did have the opportunity in March to go to Tallahassee, and I actually got to speak with state representatives regarding this, because for first-time homeowners or for senior citizens or any season in life, they weren't able to get these condos, or they weren't able to sell these condos, and it was putting a lot of people in jeopardy. So we wanted to fix that. The good news is that some things did get fixed, and that's what I'm going to kind of touch on now, is where we're at right now in this process. So right now, most of those special assessments, they're already done because the timeline has passed for them to basically rebuild. So and I've got a lot of notes here, so if I look dumb, I apologize. But they had to make sure that the roofs were were sound. They had to make sure that the balconies were sound. They had to make sure the staircases were sound. They had to make sure that the carports were sound. They had to make sure the foundation and the wall structures and the outdoor plumbing, everything was sound. So the good news is if you're buying a condo, is that all of this has been redone. So if there was a problem, it's already either been addressed or is being addressed. The other good thing is that with this, some really good changes have gone into effect. And I kind of made some notes here. So these HOAs, they have to have plenty in reserve. So if there's, a fire or a hurricane or something like that, it's now mandatory that these HOAs have appropriate reserves. The other thing is that especially buildings that are over 30 years old or in proximity to the coast, that they get these structural integrity reports are done every 10 years. So they're going to keep revisiting that. And the reason is because a lot of these condos are by coastal communities. You get that salty air coming off the water, so things tend to corrode and rust just a little bit quicker than it does further inland. The other thing is transparency. These HOAs have to provide reports to the homeowners when these structural integrity inspections are completed. And the other thing is on the con side is that yes, the monthly HOA premiums, they are higher. So if you're looking at a condo and you see $800-900 or $1,000 plus, that's going to be the norm. So if I put you into panic mode when I said $1,000 a month for an HOA, I kind of want to expand on that and show you a bigger picture to show you that yes, it's a lot of money. I'm not, going to downplay that, but you also get a lot. You get a building that is going to be inspected and looked at and that is structurally sound. So safety is now a priority, which is a great thing. The other thing too, when you think about it, insurance is expensive, whether you own a home or a condo or whatever. So it's going to include insurance for the outside of the building. So if something does happen, your insurance is covered for that. It also is going to cover all the groundskeeping, so you don't have to worry about taking care of your yard. If there's a pool and other amenities, those things get added onto it too, and usually that's built into it. Most of them have water, sewer, trash, all that is built into it. So you get kind of a lot of your bills taken care of, plus you get the amenities and you get a structurally sound building. You get that built into one bill versus paying, separate bills for one thing or another. So yeah, it's a lot, but it does cover a lot. And most importantly, you're going to know that the building's being inspected and that it's getting taken care of. The other thing that I wanted to mention, it's really with 3-story condos and higher. So if you're getting a 2-story, it's not going to be as strict as it's going to be for a mid-size or a high-rise. So those mid and high rises, that's where kind of takes into effect. And a lot of them, especially I've seen a lot of the 3-story ones, most of it's getting taken care of anyway, so they didn't really get impacted by that. So here's my best advice for you. If you're looking for a condo and you're going to finance, know that there's now safety nets built in for you. They're giving buyers a little bit longer to do the due diligence to make sure that, as I mentioned before, if an HOA does something to where they do something where they change the insurance and it's not going to be a warrantable property, then you're going to have a little bit longer time to do that due diligence. So you're going to want to make sure that the HOA is sound. You're going to want to make sure that the building is sound. If you're paying cash, you can kind of do whatever you want. But if you're going to put a mortgage on it, get an agent. If you're not going to be in this area, I can always recommend an agent that I feel very comfortable, really understands this whole condo situation and can really look out for your best interest. But it's like buying a house, right? You wouldn't buy a house that was, unless you're looking for a fixer-upper, you would want to make sure that it's structurally sound. So it's pretty much the same thing as it is for a condo. It's just that before it was a little bit more relaxed and we saw those $200-300 a month HOAs, but the buildings weren't being maintained. Now those premiums or those HOA fees are going to be higher, but you know you're going to be in a much safer building, and it's going to be more regulated, and it's better for you. So I think condos are a wonderful thing. They're, especially if you're young or if you're retiring and you just don't want to mess with a house and everything else, a condo is a great option. So don't be afraid to get a condo. Embrace it, but also embrace that when you see those HOA fees, that has become the norm, but it's also a lot safer. So I hope this makes you feel better. If you have any questions, just drop them below, and I'm happy to help you, whether you're looking for a home here in the Central Florida area. If you're looking elsewhere in Florida, you can still reach out to me, and I can find an agent that is going to be able to best suit your needs. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you found this helpful.